Stakeholders have called on the government to provide adequate security for residents in the run-up to the state elections of March 18. The call is coming from the Southeast South professionals of Nigeria, following the gory experiences of residents in the February 25 presidential and parliamentary elections. In a press briefing in Lagos, the president of the association, Hannibal Uwaifo, cautioned against voter intimidation and disenfranchisement, adding that INEC must deploy the Electoral Act in the conduct of the elections.
Attacks targeted at non-indigenous, according to what is stated here, non-indigenous in Lagos and opposition leaders must be checked as quickly as possible. In Lagos, we hear about Igbos and all sorts of profiling. That's very wrong and unacceptable and irresponsible of those involved in this. A lot of videos and real-time messages were sent directly or indirectly to people of other ethnicity, threatening them in one way or the other. That's intimidation. That's not allowed in law. Wherever you live, the law expects you to vote there. And if you do not want to vote there, you can vote anywhere you choose, so long as it's convenient for you. And nobody is expected to intimidate you about who and who you are going to vote for. So it's wrong to say Igbo must vote this way, Igbo must vote that way, or Hausa must vote this way, or Hausa must vote the other way, or Edos must vote this way or vote that way. That's wrong. And I think that this is particularly very noticeable in Lagos, where the issue of indigenous and non-indigenous have become a big problem. And I dare to say that most of these irresponsible comments are being encouraged by politicians and those who have nothing to offer the citizenry. And we believe that law enforcement agents, particularly those who run this country, should make a bold statement about the illegality and the criminality of profiling particular people because of elections or for other reasons.
The People's Democratic Party in Gombe State says it is targeting over 1 million votes in the March 18 governorship elections in the state. The spokesperson of the PDP Campaign Management Council, Ayuba Aluke, said the party is working to win the governorship and state House of Assembly elections with a margin that has never been recorded before. Well, he says the victory recorded in the February 25th National Assembly elections, in which the PDP won 5 seats in the House of Representatives and 2 senatorial seats, was an indication of the party's acceptability in the state.
Now joining us to discuss more on the political intrigues in Gombe State ahead of the governorship election is Jibrin, who is the PDP governorship candidate in that state. Mr. Marde, good evening.
Well, thank you for joining us tonight. If you can hear us, do confirm.
Yes, I can hear you very well.
All right, so thank you again for joining us tonight on the program. Yes, the PDP did have a good outing during the presidential as well as the National Assembly elections. We've seen the numbers that came out. Atiku did win in Gombe State. But talk to us about, that some people say that's the presidential. Now it comes to the gubernatorial, because you are looking to unseat an incumbent. Speaking of the APC's Governor Inuwa Yahaya. So talk to us how confident you are in achieving this feat come March 18th.
Well, thank you very much. We're very confident. The March 25th election, the February 25th election is actually an indication of the fact that Gombe State is actually a PDP state. We won 2 senatorial seats out of 3, 5 House of Representative seats out of 6, and the people of Gombe State have spoken very loud and clear. We also gave a maximum number of votes to the presidential candidate of the PDP, almost 320,000 votes against the 140-something thousand votes of the his closest rival, the APC candidate. And you can clearly see that from all indications, we are a PDP state. Not only that, it's also an indication of the total failure of the APC government at the state level, and how disenfranchised the people of Gombe State are with lack of developmental projects, with lack of focus on the people, with the level of poverty in the state, the level of dilapidation of the infrastructure, healthcare, education, and the rest of that. Everybody is actually tired, and therefore that's why you can see the kind of turnout that we have witnessed. And the presidential election is just a barometer for the gubernatorial elections, and now people are more determined to actually more than double the numbers that were given to our senators and to our presidential candidate. As exactly that's exactly why I said we are targeting about 1 million votes.
Particularly concerned because if the government in power in your state has so far been scored high in healthcare delivery and of course in the ease of doing business, and yet they still want a change, doesn't that speak to the high expectation the citizens have? How are you prepared to meet these expectations?
I'm not sure about scoring the state very high in terms of healthcare. I'm not sure about that. We have about 10% child mortality rate at less than the age of 3 months. We have about another 5% maternal mortality rate, and that's an indication of how poor our primary health care delivery system is. In addition to that, our hospitals are completely dilapidated. We do not have equipments in the hospitals. We do not have drugs in the hospitals, and there are no personnel in the hospitals. In fact, not only do we have a brain drain, we actually do not have the adequate personnel in the hospitals across the state. So clearly, I don't know what measure was used in scoring the state very high. However, having said that, I know that the sitting government will always do whatever it could to actually ensure that it remains in power. Particularly what we have seen recently is an escalation of divisive tendencies from the governor and his government, and more particularly intimidation from the government, particularly using thugs and using the cover of the security agencies to provide cover for his thugs in the state. However, we are determined to make sure that as law-abiding citizens, we exercise our franchise peacefully and that freely, and will ensure that we vote him out. Of course, we are also afraid that there are plans by the governor to not to only intimidate voters and disenfranchise them, but to also rig the elections, having seen what has happened to the Beavers machine and the lack of confidence that everybody now has in the electronic transmission of results and the rest of that. So clearly, we have seen his tendencies, the recent utterances of the governor himself, and that of his coordinator clearly shows to the fact that they are hell-bent at ensuring that they use thuggery and intimidation, and also use whatever means they can to rig the elections in their favor.
Right, and of course, you know, looking at Governor Inua Yahaya himself, we've seen, yes, you've talked about some of the issues that he's had in the state, but some would say he's trying to right the wrongs. And recently we did see him even apologize to the Christian community in the state, even though some would say it's politically motivated, but we're seeing him trying to do right, some would say. But let's speak about you, really. You are a former banking managing director, and you have spoken in the past about your plans really to industrialize Gombe State. The question is how? You know, promises are one thing, but how this will be achieved is what the people want to hear. So over to you, industrializing Gombe State if you become governor.
Okay, first and foremost, in leadership, there are, especially when you find yourself in where you are now, there are two key stabilizers that are needed to ensure that the state is put back on the path of development. One is to provide the kind of leadership that is required, to be very honest, to keep the trust of the people, and to be fair to everybody. Particularly, we need to stop the bleeding of our treasury. That is exactly what we intend to do, because the unprecedented mismanagement of our common resources that has been witnessed under this administration of the Governor Mohammed Yahya has never been witnessed in the state ever. Therefore, we really need to ensure that the amount of money that comes to the state and the resources that belong to the state is judiciously utilized. That's first and foremost. And secondly, most importantly, is to ensure that we have competent people in key leadership positions who will not subvert the system, but who will actually contribute to the developmental process. That's one. But in the medium and long term, we intend to be at the forefront of providing the necessary support for private sector. Gombe State is endowed not only with limestone and with coal and with other mineral resources and agriculture, and a very fertile agricultural land, but it's also recently been endowed with hydrocarbons. What we need to do is to ensure that we provide the necessary environment for investors to really come in and invest. Given our background and our track record, we're able to attract people who come in here and invest. We intend to start, first and foremost, by promoting investment in modular cement factories, in mining. Today, Nigeria, for example, is consuming 156,000 metric tons of coal. However, we actually are producing less than 40,000 metric tons of coal within the country. That means there's a deficit of nowhere less than 117,000 metric tons. That means there is already a market for us in the country. From the agricultural sector, we have dams that were initially designed to provide water for irrigation of over 100,000 hectares of land, 35 megawatts of electricity, and also provide potable drinking water. We have another dam that equally has a similar capacity. So we need to use the resources that is available to us to be able to ensure that we attract investors and provide the necessary support and environment for them to actually invest. In that regard, we will be able to create jobs for our people, and at the same time, be able to create tax revenues from those manufacturing companies.
Well, Jibrin Marde, the PDP governorship candidate in Gombe State, we say all the best, and of course, thank you for joining us tonight.